Good evening and welcome to GCMX News, coming to you live from our studio in GCMX Africa, Kano, Nigeria. Today, Thursday, being the 5th February 2026, which is equivalent to 17 Sha'ban 1447 after Hijrah. I am Hamza Dauda Adamu with the news. First, the news headlines. Tinubu deploys army battalion to Kwara after deadly massacre. Abducted Kurmi Wali worshippers released after 18 days in captivity. INEC holds first 2026 consultative meeting with political parties. Tigray worshippers fear return to war as AU monitors arrive in Mekelle. And now the news in details. Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered the deployment of a military battalion to part of Kwara State, following a deadly attack that left dozens of people killed in Kayama local government area of the state. In a statement issued late Wednesday by his spokesperson Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu also appointed a commander to lead the military operation in Kwara State, which will focus in restoring peace under an operation code named Operation Savannah Shield. The federal government took the decision after an attack on Woro village, where reports indicate that the bodies of 78 victims killed by the assailants have so far been recovered. However, a member of the Kwara State House of Assembly, Saidu Baba Ahmed, told journalists that more than 70 of the victims had already been buried. Therefore, Honorable Baba Ahmed further disclosed that the attackers abducted 38 women from the communities they attacked. The 2023 presidential candidate of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, has called on the federal government to take decisive military measures to combat terrorist activities. Kwankwaso issued the statement on Wednesday following the killing of over 160 people in Woro and Nuku community in Kwara State. On his social media page, the former governor of Kano State said he is deeply saddened and horrified by the reported massacre of the at least 162 innocent lives in Woro and Nuku communities. However, this barbaric attack is utterly commendable and was carried out by the terrorist elements that must not be tolerated or allowed to thrive anywhere in the nation. Therefore, he continued, as he have consistently warned the federal government cannot treat this development lightly. These violent groups are steadily expanding into areas that were once peaceful, increasing the burden on our armed forces and making urgent coordinated action essential. Kwankwaso also extended his condolence, stating that he offers his heartfelt sympathies to the families of the victims, the people of Kwara State and the state government. May Almighty Allah grant the departed eternal rest and bring comfort to all of whom. Worshippers abducted from churches in Kurmi Wali town, located in Kufana axis of Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State, have been released. The victims were kidnapped on 18th January 2026 while attending church service in the community. A community leader who spoke to journalists on condition of anonymity said the release took place late on Thursday night. However, he explained that between 11 p.m. and midnight, heavy-duty vehicles were seen entering a forest around Maro town. The vehicles later returned with the abducted worshippers between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. Therefore, it remains unclear whether any ransom was paid to secure the victims' release or whether the 17 motorcycles demanded by the abductors were handed over. Earlier reports had indicated that at least 177 people were abducted during the attack on Kurmi Wali. You are still watching the news from GCMX Africa. Stay tuned as we come back shortly. Welcome back. At least 2 hunters were killed on Monday evening when suspected Laukurawa armed bandit ambushed a hunting party in Kadida Forest of Tangaza local government area of Sokoto State. In another deadly attack underscoring the worsening insecurity in Nigeria's northwest region, Zagazola Makama gathered from the Sokoto State Police Command that the incident occurred at about 4:30 p.m. on February 3rd. When a group of hunters entered the forest for what was described as a hunting exhibition. Security sources said the hunters were caught off guard as the attackers, reportedly in large numbers and armed with sophisticated weapons, launched a close-range ambush. However, the bandits opened fire on the hunters at close range, killing 2 instantly, while others fled into the bush. The sources say that the survivors later reported that the incident at the Tengaza Divisional Police Headquarters. Therefore, one of the victims was identified as Nura Usman of 30 years from Mogonho village, while the identity of the second male victim has yet to be formally confirmed. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is currently hosting its first regular consultative meeting of the year with registered political parties at its Abuja headquarters as preparation for the 2027 general election gets underway. Notably, the faction of the People Democratic Party, PDP, led by former Minister of the Special Duties, Tanimu Turaki, was absent from the meeting. However, in contrast, the rival faction headed by the party's National Secretary Samuel Anyawu attended the session alongside its factional National Chairman Abdurrahman Muhammad. Therefore, the leader of the other major political parties were also present, which include the National Chairman of the Labour Party, Nenadi Usman, who attended with its party's National Secretary, Senator Darlington Nwokocha. Meanwhile, the ruling All Progressive Congress APC was represented by its national chairman, Nentawi Ilwata, along with its party's national secretary. The consultative meeting marks the beginning of early preparation for the 2027 election as INEC engaged political parties on electoral process and coordination. And now we move to the foreign news. The African Union AU has deployed its monitoring team to the Tigray region of Ethiopia following renewed clashes between federal government forces and the Tigray fighters, a situation that forced the suspension of flights to the area. In a statement, the AU's Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security confirmed that the experts under its monitoring, verification and compliance mechanism have returned to Mekelle to continue overseeing the implementation of the Pretoria Agreement. The Pretoria Agreement was signed in November 2022 between the Ethiopian federal government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, to end the nearly 2-year Tigray conflict, which resulted in significant loss of the widespread destruction of property in the region. To end the news, a recap of the major item. You have heard that Tinubu deploys army battalion to Kwara after deadly massacre. Abducted Kurmi Wali worshippers released after 18 days in captivity. You also heard that INEC hosts first 2026 consultative meeting with political parties. Tigray worshippers fear return to war as AU monitors arrive in Mekelle. This news comes to you live from our studio at GCMX Africa, Kano, Nigeria. You can also follow us through our social media handles at GCMX Africa or through our streaming platform at GCMX on streaming or through our radio guardian at GCMX Africa. Once again, I'm Hamza Dauda Adamu saying goodbye for now.